All right, here we go. It's on. People are going to be mad, but I gotta say, I think this is the right move. I would have said 6 months ago, I would have said this was wrong, but full disclosure, I'm a former smoker. I smoked for 26 years. I strongly support people's right to continue to choose to do something, but I personally think cigarettes probably should just be banned for a variety of reasons, the majority of which have to do with the fact that the reason why quitting smoking is so difficult to do is because as a society, we have chosen, for whatever reason, to allow the smoking myths to persist. The smoking myths being that it's cool, that it offers you a benefit of some kind. It doesn't. It offers you no benefit whatsoever. It gives you absolutely nothing and does nothing to improve your life. All it does is harm you. But we have these myths that have been created as a result of movies, TV, and popular culture that make it so that people who start smoking think that they're giving something up when in fact they are not. However, that being said, when the government comes in and forces you to do it, it's a whole different scenario. So let's go. Menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars to be banned by the FDA. Now, this is a big issue too, because flavored cigars are not something, you don't inhale a cigar. So cigars represent a much different threat and are not something that you should particularly be concerned with because you're not inhaling it into your lungs. Yes, there is an issue with nicotine absorption into the bloodstream, and there is some damage to the throat, more specifically to the mouth, but the chances of getting cancer with just smoking cigars relatively low. If you brush your teeth, take care of yourself, it's a relatively minor risk. Same thing with smoking a pipe. It's the inhalation of cigarettes that makes them so bad. All right, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is looking to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigar due to concerns these tobacco products are harming American youth. Now, they harm every single person that they use, so that is a bad excuse to start off with. That's something I don't like, is the excuse, oh, it's harming the youth. No, it harms everybody. All right, the FDA submitted the final rule for regulatory review to the Office of Management and Budget on Friday. This final rule is a tobacco product standard to prohibit the use of menthol as a characterizing flavor in cigarettes, according to an OMB website. Legal Resource Center Law Insider defines the term characterizing flavor as meaning a taste or aroma other than the taste or aroma of tobacco that is imparted either prior to or during the use of the tobacco product. Flavored cigars would also be banned under the rule. The FDA has long been pushing to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars. Last year, the agency announced it was proposing rules to this effect to prevent youth initiation and significantly reduce tobacco-related disease and death, according to an April 28th release. Remember that phrase, because later on we're going to see how significant that is. Menthol is a flavor additive with a minty taste and aroma that aids in reducing the harshness and irritation of smoking. That's false. Menthol cigarettes are more harsh than regular cigarettes are. Every smoker is aware of this fact. This boosts the appeal for cigarettes and makes the menthol variants popular among youth and young adults. Menthol can also interact with nicotine in the brain, enhancing nicotine's addictive effects. That is also false. That is a flat-out lie. There is absolutely nothing that supports such a specious claim. Menthol has no effect on nicotine. The nicotine circuit is entirely unique. It's separate from almost any other addiction that exists. Nicotine addiction is stronger than cocaine addiction, stronger than heroin addiction. There are, the withdrawals are different. That's why it's harder to quit some of those other drugs. But the actual circuit that builds up in your brain for nicotine is stronger than the other ones, and it has nothing to do with menthol. Menthol has no impact on it whatsoever. Quitting smoking menthol cigarettes is the same as smoking any other cigarettes. Now they're lying and making it worse. The combination of menthol's flavor, sensory effects, and interaction with nicotine in the brain increase the likelihood that youth who start smoking menthol cigarettes will progress to regular use. Also, flat out wrong. It's just the nicotine that does that, not the menthol. The menthol has nothing whatsoever to do with it. I myself started off smoking menthols and stopped smoking them because after a while, menthol kind of burns and doesn't taste that good. Menthol also makes it more difficult for people to quit smoking, the FDA said. Flat out lie. Absolutely false. Specious at best. That is a terrible justification for doing this. The only proper justification is smoking is bad for you. It offers you no benefit whatsoever. That's the only reason why you ban it, and that would mean you ban every single cigarette, not just menthol. This is absurd. The agency estimated that there were 18.5 million menthol cigarette smokers aged 12 and above in the United States in 2018, with particularly high rates of use by youth, young adults, and African Americans and other racial and ethnic groups. So basically, everybody but white people is what they're saying in there. But this 18.5 million, that claim is entirely spurious. There's no data to back it up. You know where they get that from? They get that from the high school survey that you take when you go to high school. You remember that one that they give you and ask you what drugs you do, and you lie on it and say you did every single drug? That's where they get this stuff from. If menthol cigarettes were not available, there would be a 15% reduction in smoking within 4 decades. The agency said, citing multiple studies, this would translate into 324,000 to 654,000 saved lives. Let's take that with consideration. 15% reduction in smoking over 40 years. Okay, remember, up here, what did they say? They said prevent youth and significantly reduce tobacco-related diseases and death. 15% reduction in smoking is all this would be. That's not significant. That means 85% of people will still smoke. That's not significant. It's something, but it's not significant. Significant would be 30, 40, 50%. Come on now. The FDA has expressed hope that once the rule comes into effect, it would reduce the appeal of cigarettes among youth and young adults, thus reducing the chances that non-users who experiment with menthol cigarettes end up progressing to regular smoking. No, nothing to do with it at all. The OMB review is the last step to be completed to finalize the rule. Harm to youngsters and everybody else. In an October 16th statement, Harold Wimmer, president of the American Lung Association, called the FDA rule banning menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars, quote, the most significant actions the FDA Center for Tobacco Products has taken in its 14-year history, end quote. Not a good one. There's a much better one. It's called Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Smoking. One book, 5 to 6 hours, you're a non-smoker. You're a happy non-smoker for the rest of your life. 26 years, I smoked one day, 6 hours, and I quit. It won't work for absolutely everybody, but it will work for 95% or more of smokers. And that's if the government were serious about it, that's what it would do. It would spend its money on putting out people to do those seminars everywhere in the country and just get everybody to stop smoking. It would take maybe 6 months tops. The American Lung Association is eager for these life-saving rules to be implemented and urges the White House to finalize the rules before the end of the year. The science and data are clear. Ending the sale of menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars will save lives. Only because if people stop smoking, they'll do better. Just cigarettes themselves. Ban them. Ban cigarettes. One study estimates almost 1 million smokers would quit within 17 months of the end of the sale of menthol cigarettes, including almost 250,000 black individuals living in America. So basically, like you want to make it so black people can't smoke. And that's really not a fair thing. So 1 million people will quit smoking, but only 250,000 of those will be black. Except that blacks are the highest cohort that uses menthols. So you're still basically admitting that no, most black people are going to keep smoking. They're just going to switch. So you don't really care about minorities. After Canada stopped selling menthol cigarettes in 2017, the country saw an increase in quit attempts and cessation among people who smoked menthol cigarettes, and that's going to be true. The Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids also welcomed the FDA's proposal, asking the OMB and the White House to consider expediting the review and issuing final regulations by the end of the year, given the profound life-saving benefit of the rules. No. According to an October 16th press release, kids smoke. They don't care about menthol or not. The majority of smokers are not menthol, and this includes youths. Tobacco is the number one cause of preventable death in the United States. I thought that was gun violence. I thought we were making the switch to that. So it's not. Tobacco is either. It's actually all of the cancerous products that we consume. Cancer kills more people, and all of the horrible additives in our food are doing that. Let's see. So cheap flavored cigars are sold in kid-friendly flavors like Berry Fusion, Cherry Dynamic, and Iced Donut, the organization said. Do you think adults don't like that? That's dumb. That's a bad argument. Adults like flavors too. Let's see. These flavored products have been flooded the market in recent years and have fueled the popularity of cigars with kids. Kids don't smoke cigars. The group cited the 2022 National Youth Tobacco Survey, which showed that cigars are, quote, the second most popular tobacco product after e-cigarettes among American high school students. Meaning that's people smoking blunts, that's people smoking weed and stuff like that. That's not because they're smoking cigars. And if they were smoking cigars, that's not nearly as harmful. So that's not as big of a deal. Crackdown on e-cigarettes. Some have argued against the ban in March late last year. The Tax Foundation warned in a report that the federal menthol ban would result in losses for local governments due to the high level of taxation and a large market share of the flavored cigarettes. This is truthful. And this is why a lot of people don't want to end cigarettes, is because a lot of convenience stores would close. A lot of people would lose jobs in the tobacco industry. And so if you were to completely stop smoking, you might see 250,000 to 500,000 jobs vanish inside of 6 months, which would hurt the economy. So we are in a situation where in order for our economy to keep going, we need to keep killing people. Same problem exists with fatty food and junk food. Like a small decline in junk food sales hurts the overall economy and can cause recessionary waves, because if people stopped eating all the junk food, we would have fewer jobs in the junk food industry, which is a significant industry. So even though it's horrible for us and it's killing us, we need to keep doing it because it'll hurt our economy if we don't keep killing ourselves. Isn't it amazing? In the United States, excise taxes alone make up 40% of the retail price of tobacco products on average, it said. A third of the market is made up of flavored cigarettes. Federal action does not only impact federal revenue, and combined, governments stand to lose more than $6.6 billion in the first full year following prohibition, the group stated. Meanwhile, the FDI is also cracking down on flavored e-cigarettes. Last week, the agency issued denial orders for the marketing of 6 flavored e-cigarette products being sold under the Views Alto brand, including 3 menthol flavored ones. Evidence submitted by the applicant did not demonstrate that the menthol and mixed berry flavored products provided an added benefit for adults who smoke cigarettes in terms of complete switching or a significant smoking reduction relative to that of tobacco flavored products that is sufficient to outweigh the known risks to youth, the agency said. In July, it issued a marketing denial order for the menthol flavored e-cigarette made by Fontum US. In May, the FDA issued similar orders to 10 companies that collectively marketed around 6,500 flavored e-cigarette and e-liquid products. So once again, it's the same thing. Adults like to smoke these things far more than kids do. You're punishing adults for doing it. I would have to say objectively that vaping is probably maybe better than smoking. At least it's better for the environment and people around you. The vapor isn't harmful to things. It doesn't destroy your stuff as much. It doesn't leave the lingering smell as bad. As far as damage to your lungs, look up popcorn lung. That's pretty horrific. It's hard to say. It's probably better, though. It's definitely a bad thing to be vaping, but I think it's probably better to vape than it is to smoke. So if you're going to target something, what you should be targeting is the cigarettes, not the menthol, not the cigars, but the cigarettes themselves. We're not doing that. So the FDA doesn't truly care about you. If they did, they'd just be ending cigarettes. So on the one hand, I actually support this because it's a step towards outlawing cigarettes, which I think we should do. Again, I didn't used to be that way, but now that I stopped smoking and I realize, you know what, there is no value to doing this. It might hurt the economy to a certain extent to end tobacco, but we should. That would be the correct and proper thing to do.